Welcome to Revenge Return, where love is never simple, revenge is never accidental, and every story unfolds with secrets, betrayal, and emotional twists you won't see coming. This is where the story begins. The Zillow alert hit my phone at 2:34 p.m. on a Wednesday. New listing matching your saved search. Lake Tahoe waterfront properties. I was in a budget meeting at the Department of Energy's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, where I'd worked as a senior research scientist for 9 years. I glanced at my phone, expecting another overpriced cabin I couldn't afford, and instead saw my own house staring back at me. 847 Lakeshore Drive, South Lake Tahoe. $2.8 million. Rare waterfront estate for BR/3BA, private dock, panoramic views. Owner motivated, quick close preferred. 26 photos showed every angle of the property my father had left me 5 years ago. The house I'd inherited solely, maintained meticulously, and visited monthly from my home in Berkeley. The listing agent was Rebecca Torres with Summit Realty. The property description mentioned joint family ownership, and all co-owners in agreement. I left the meeting without explanation and called the number on the listing. Summit Realty, Rebecca Torres speaking. This is Dr. Maya Patel, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. You have a listing for 847 Lakeshore Drive. I'm the sole owner of that property. Who authorized this listing? Brief pause. Dr. Patel, I have listing documents signed by multiple owners. Your sister Priya was very clear that this is joint family property being sold with full consensus. My sister has no ownership interest, I interrupted. I inherited this property solely in 2019. There are no co-owners. This listing is fraudulent. Ma'am, I can't just remove a listing based on a phone call. If there's a dispute, you'll need to provide documentation. I'll provide documentation to everyone who matters, I said. Remove the listing immediately or I'm contacting your broker and the California Department of Real Estate. I hung up and called my attorney, James Kim, who'd handled my father's estate and had warned me then, unprompted, to watch for challenges from your sister. Maya, James answered. What happened? Priya listed my lake house without my permission. She's claiming joint ownership to buyers. I need this stopped now. Send me the listing. I heard him typing. I'll contact the brokerage and request a title search. If Priya's made false ownership claims, we can get the listing removed and potentially file criminal charges. Within 2 hours, James called back with news that made my stomach drop. Maya, I pulled the title history. Priya has been filing fraudulent documents with El Dorado County for 8 years. Quit-claim deeds, transfer documents, affidavits of ownership. She's created an entire paper trail suggesting she owns 40% of your property. 8 years. My voice came out as a whisper. That's since before Dad even died. She started filing when he was diagnosed, James confirmed. First document is from 2016. Supposedly transferring partial ownership from your father to her. Every signature is forged, your father's, yours on several documents, even a notary stamp that belongs to someone who moved to Oregon in 2015. I sat down in my office, door closed, trying to process this. How much has she collected from buyers? According to the listing agent, who's now cooperating because she doesn't want to lose her license, Priya has accepted $85,000 in deposits from 3 different interested buyers. She told each one they were securing the property, that other offers were coming in, that they needed to act fast. Where's that money now? Unknown. Probably spent. Priya's been living well above her means for years. Luxury apartment in San Francisco, designer clothes, exotic vacations. You thought she was successful in tech marketing. She's actually been unemployed for 14 months and living on credit cards and fraud. The meeting with the title company happened 4 days later in their Sacramento office. Present were James, me, Rebecca Torres, the listing agent, her broker, and 2 investigators from the El Dorado County District Attorney's Office. The investigators laid out 8 years of systematic fraud across the conference table like evidence at a crime scene. First filing March 2016. The lead investigator said, a woman named Detective Sarah Chin who specialized in real estate fraud. Quit-claim deed supposedly transferring 20% ownership from Robert Patel to Priya Patel. Robert Patel's signature is forged. We confirmed this through handwriting analysis and the fact that he was in hospice care and physically unable to sign documents that week. She pulled up another document. June 2016. Another quit-claim deed, this time supposedly from you, Maya, transferring 10% to Priya. Your signature is also forged. Notary stamp belongs to a notary who moved out of state the previous year. Document after document. Affidavits claiming shared inheritance. Transfer deeds supposedly executed after our father's death. Power of attorney forms I'd never signed. Beneficiary designations that contradicted my father's actual will. She's been building this for 8 years, Detective Chen said. Waiting for the property value to peak before cashing out. Current market value is $2.8 million. If she'd succeeded in selling it, she would have collected 40%, over $1 million, from the sale of a property she doesn't own. Rebecca Torres looked physically ill. She showed me documents. Multiple documents. They looked legitimate. They looked legitimate because real estate fraud is sophisticated, Detective Chen said, not unkindly. Miss Torres, you're not being charged. But you need to refund those deposits immediately and cooperate fully with our investigation. The buyers, I said quietly. The people who gave her deposits. Can they get their money back? If Priya still has it, yes, Detective Chen said. If she's spent it, they'll have to pursue civil judgments. Either way, she's facing criminal charges. 8 years of forgery, attempted fraud, identity theft. This isn't a one-time mistake. It's systematic, premeditated theft. James pulled out his own folder. I have our father's actual will here. Crystal clear. Entire property goes to Maya. I have the deed recorded after probate. Sole owner Maya Patel. Every legitimate document contradicts every document Priya filed. The DA's office moved quickly. Within 2 weeks, they'd charged Priya with 23 counts including forgery, grand theft, identity theft, and attempted real estate fraud. An arrest warrant was issued. Priya turned herself in with an attorney, a criminal defense lawyer who specialized in white-collar crime, paid for with money I assumed came from the buyer deposits she'd pocketed. I attended the arraignment. Sat in the back of the courtroom and watched my sister stand before a judge in an expensive navy suit, pleading not guilty to 23 felonies. The judge set bail at $150,000. Priya's attorney argued for or release based on her strong community ties and no prior criminal record. The prosecutor countered with evidence of systematic fraud spanning 8 years and the high risk that Priya would continue committing crimes if released. Bail stood at $150,000. Priya's attorney requested a recess to arrange payment. After the hearing in the courthouse hallway, Priya's attorney approached me. Dr. Patel, my client would like to speak with you about resolving this matter. No, I said simply. She's your sister. She's willing to apologize, enter a treatment program for gambling addiction. Gambling addiction? I asked. Is that the defense strategy? She spent 8 years forging documents because of gambling. The attorney shifted uncomfortably. She's struggled with addiction issues that led to poor decisions. She made calculated, systematic choices for 8 years, I said. She forged my dying father's signature. She stole deposits from innocent buyers. She tried to steal my house. Those aren't addiction symptoms, they're crimes. I walked away. My mother called that evening. We'd been estranged since Dad's funeral. She'd remarried quickly, moved to Arizona, and generally treated her children as obligations rather than relationships. You're really going to let your sister go to prison? No greeting. No preamble. Priya is going to prison because she committed 23 felonies, I said. I'm not sending her anywhere. The DA is prosecuting based on evidence. She made mistakes. 8 years of systematic fraud isn't mistakes, I interrupted. It's calculated theft. She forged Dad's signature while he was dying. She forged mine repeatedly. She stole money from buyers. At what point do you call it what it is? I call it family in crisis, Mom said. I call it mental health issues and poor judgment. Call it whatever helps you sleep, I said. I call it crime and I'm not interfering with prosecution. She hung up on me. The trial was scheduled for October but never happened. In September, facing overwhelming evidence, Priya accepted a plea deal, guilty to attempted fraud, forgery, and identity theft. Reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation and restitution. Sentencing was November 3rd. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who'd clearly seen too many real estate fraud cases, wasn't sympathetic. "Miss Patel, you didn't make one impulsive mistake," Judge Martinez said. "You executed a planned systematic fraud over 8 years. You forged your dying father's signature. You stole from your sister. You defrauded innocent buyers. This wasn't addiction or poor judgment, it was calculated theft." Sentence: 2 years in county jail, 3 years probation, $127,000 in restitution covering my legal fees, the title company's investigation costs, and the buyer deposits she'd stolen. Priya cried through the sentencing. Her attorney had prepared a statement about remorse and rehabilitation. Judge Martinez listened politely and then imposed the maximum sentence allowed under the plea agreement. "I didn't attend the sentencing. I read the transcript later, sent by the victim advocate assigned to my case. The county recorder's office spent 3 months systematically removing every fraudulent document Priya had filed. My property title was cleared, restored to what it had always legally been. Sole owner Maya Patel inherited June 2019. The 3 buyers who'd given Priya deposits recovered $42,000 total. Money the DA's office found in one of her bank accounts. The remaining $43,000 was gone, spent on rent, clothes, vacations, maintaining the illusion of success. Priya got out after 18 months for good behavior. She's living in Reno now, working retail, prohibited from contacting me for 5 years per the restraining order. Mom made one more attempt at reconciliation, sending a long email about forgiveness and healing. I didn't respond. Some relationships end not because you're unforgiving but because the betrayal reveals something fundamental. That your sister spent 8 years systematically stealing from you, and your mother thinks you should overlook it because family. I still own the lake house. Still visit monthly. Still maintain the dock my father and I rebuilt together the summer before his diagnosis. Still sit on the deck watching sunset over the water, remembering the man who left me this property specifically because, as his will stated, Maya understands what it means to preserve something beautiful. The title search found 8 years of fraud because the investigators were thorough. Because James knew to look. Because the system, when it works properly, can distinguish between legitimate documents and sophisticated forgeries. People ask if I regret pressing charges. If I feel guilty about Priya's criminal record. If I worry about her future. I don't. I feel grateful that the truth came out before she succeeded in stealing my house. That the buyers recovered some of their money. That 8 years of lies were finally exposed. Priya chose fraud over honesty. She chose systematic theft over asking for help. She chose to forge our dying father's signature rather than accept that some inheritances aren't meant to be shared. The listing agreement needed criminal defense because it was built on 8 years of lies. And that truth saved what my father worked his whole life to build. That's the ending we both earned.